Hello and welcome to another YuGiOh video, and today we are taking a look at a very special version of 2020 Orcust featuring one card brought back off the ban list. So today we finally get to revive the Harp horror, and the deck becomes absurd after you do this. It's so good what this deck can do. So I'm going to take you through my list from this event. Before we kick this off, first off, huge shout out to Cardmarket. You can check out the link in the description if you want to help out the channel. Using that link means that they understand that there's this connection between us. That means that I can then run more giveaways. So there'll be giveaways every now and again, either on the channel or on the Facebook page, using some special codes that they're going to give me, and that means you guys can get extra Cardmarket credit for absolutely free. All you got to do is just click that link and encourage other people to do so, so that Cardmarket thinks that, you know, we've got this nice special bond between us. That's always very important. So a quick description of this event. This was a special Christmas time event, and the only difference from this compared to normal current meta format is that you can take one card that's banned and make it limited. So that's the Harp horror, and then you can take one card that is either limited or semi-limited, and then you can play 3 of it. So that was like another very interesting aspect. Because it's not traditional format, it doesn't make the deck completely absurd. Like traditional Orcust can do some really crazy things, and maybe we'll take a look at that at some point down the line. But with the way that this format was going and the specific event, I was basically under the impression that there are going to be loads of FTKs out there. So I want to take advantage of some aspect of the Orcust engine that makes things very, very cool and fun to play around with. So definitely Harp going to 1. If you look at it from a proper competitive standpoint, it's actually better to bring back Mermaid. There are so many more decks that could just special summon 2 names and then go into full Orcust combo from that point. But the combo's sort of subdued, and I think Harp just does some very cool stuff. So I'd rather see this guy off the ban list than Mermaid right now. I think Mermaid will make things totally broken. So I just wanted to test this out and see how good it was just with the one Harp. And then for the cards that ended up going from limited to triple copies, I went for Foolish Burial. It seemed like it had the most impact of the available options. This is now, if you have Harp, it's both a starter and an extender, whereas if we look at normal format without Harp, this is just an extender really. It doesn't start any of your plays, unfortunately. So this was the amendment to the normal ban list from my perspective. Everyone else could pick different things, which means, you know, a bunch of different FTKs and stuff could float around. Sure, whatever, didn't matter. Still went, smashed the event, ended up in 2nd place, only losing out to the winner because Dark Lord's damn good. So okay, let's go through the list then. So triple Foolish 1, Harp horror, and then we'll go through the rest of it by engines. Triple Gearsey, double Nightmare, double Skeleton, 1 Wand, 1 Babel or Babel, 1 Return, and 1 Crescendo. And then if you want to count it in this engine, there's the 1 Gizmek as well. So initial testing suggested that you didn't need to run the 3rd Nightmare anymore because you have all of these ways to access your engine regardless. The Gizmek is really weird because it does enable you to go into some very cool pop multiple cards through the Bomber Dragon, but it didn't seem super impactful. This is like the card that I was considering cutting a lot before when I was doing my initial testing, but obviously, you know, there's not a lot of opportunity to test custom formats at the moment because there aren't so many events that follow that particular ban list. Return is another one that you can potentially cut from this particular lineup, but everything else very, very solid. Having the 2nd skeleton is actually really important for this type of build because you're summoning so much stuff off the Harp, so that becomes like a hugely impactful thing to have the 2nd skeleton. It's even tempting to run the 3rd one, but I don't think it was necessary for this particular event. So that's the Orcust engine. If you're playing modern format, again, you can consider cutting the Orochi, play the 3rd Nightmare because your extra deck's slightly different, and obviously you only get the 1 Foolish and no Harp. So Foolish is just an extender at that point. But that's the Orcust engine. Really nice to be able to play Harp and do some very, very cool plays. Things like Harp summoning Gearsey during your opponent's turn is very cool. And as I mentioned, the bomber play, we might take a look at that once we get through the rest of the deck. So then the rocket engine, 2 tracer, 1 recharger, 3 quick launch, and 1 boot sector. This is like, I think this is pretty standard at the moment for how the engine is run. A lot of people are taking the Absol route, where you play Ravine, Absol Darkworm on top of this lineup, which is fine for a lot of the builds. But I think that's the kind of thing where you want to apply a lot of pressure through your dragons, and then you can play like Chaos Space and the Wyver Burster and the Black Dragon Collapse Serpent. For a more streamlined version where you don't want to focus on non-Orcust engines so much, I think this lineup is slightly better. The other one does give you a few more ways to access Chaos Ruler, which is quite nice, but the complaint I see all the time is you have so many bricks. Like even this particular engine, you have 2 cards that you don't really want to draw, and then drawing multiple traces of super awkward. And I actually lost one of my games because I opened, I think it was double quick launch, tracer, boot sector, and then I think it was like, what was the other card? It was pretty bad. I think the other card got hand trapped or something. But yeah, so the lineup is fairly strong. A lot of people miss the lines of play where you just normal summon tracer and get access to your plays. Even opening boot sector allows you to apply a lot of pressure into boards, because your opponent will have monsters, which is quite nice. And then the fact that Recharger revives a lot of your stuff from the graveyard anyway is still very cool. So I don't think this engine has like horrendous bricks. Like if these are the bricks, they're not the worst bricks in the world compared to some of the other engines. So this in general is still a very nice engine to have. And that you have so many other extenders that this still gets you into a play. So I think it's quite nice to have this compact rocket engine. The second tracer came up a few times, but it is one of those cards you can sometimes side out if you think your hand traps are just going to be a lot more impactful and close out the game a bit sooner. But tracer does come up in the grind game, and it triggers your topologic monsters as well. Dangers: Bigfoot, Thunderbird, Nessie, 2 Mothman, 1 Jackalope, 1 Tsuchinoko. This was originally 3 Mothman, but I just really liked the interaction where you discard these guys for your Dragoon effect, and then start breaking apart boards when you shouldn't be able to, which is always a nice thing to do. Otherwise, can't really complain about the engine too much. I think the main thing was it interacted with Dragoon. Otherwise, you should just play Souls. Souls is, in general, a slightly better engine. There are weird scenarios where having Apprentice Illusion Magician would have been better, because you want to discard a light monster so that you get your Chaos Ruler alive again for the revive, because there aren't so many, there aren't masses of light targets in this particular build. So that's an option you can play. You can play triple Apprentice Illusion Magician, triple Souls, and then you will have, what is it, 2 spots left to fill, 1 spot left to fill, 1 spot left to fill, and just fill it with any, I mean, probably Tsuchinoko if you're going for another, just like a danger name or something. But I did like the way that these interacted with the Dragoon on the day. I think that was pretty nice. A lot of people then, you use the Dragoon to negate something, and then you discard like a Bigfoot or a Thunderbird, and you start applying a lot of pressure during your opponent's turn without using your Orcust Grave effects, and people got really worried about that, which is quite interesting to see. For hand traps, triple Nibiru and triple Gamma, 1 Driver. Because you play the high spell lineup, Gamma becomes live a lot more and is then valuable in this particular deck. In a few of the other builds where you obviously can't play triple Forge Burial, I don't think this has quite the same impact, so it's not quite as good. Nibiru is always super strong in Orcust builds. And the other thing was, this is a format where FTK is illegal, so you kind of have to play something to beat them. Ash Blossom didn't seem like a good idea, Imperm didn't seem like a good idea, versus a lot of these where you're trading 1 for 1, it's just not good enough, whereas Gamma generally trades at least 2 for 1, so that's quite good there. And Nibiru pretty much always trades 3, 4 for 1, which is pretty nice to see. So yeah, that was the hand trap lineup, plus they're all light, so you can add all of them off the Chaos Ruler if you have to. And then the final 3 cards in the main deck are 1 Red Eyes Black Dragon, 1 Dark Magician, and 1 Red Eyes Fusion. Just the fact that Dragoon allows you to stick a big body that triggers your dangers and puts your like dead nightmares or skeletons or whatever from your hand into the graveyard makes the engine really worth playing. I'd even recommend it in like normal Orcust builds at the moment. I think a lot of people are sleeping on this because the argument has always been you don't want to be adding bricks to a deck that has a lot of high level bricks already. This particular build has even more because you have driver, but then if you look at it, the bricks from this build end up being stuff like boot sector, driver, recharger, and then you also don't want a hard open wand or nightmare. So you've got a lot of cards that you just don't want to see in your opening hand. So the argument for running this engine was that it had the most impact for the least bricks. If you compare it to the scrap engine, which is always the counter argument, scrap engine typically runs 3 or 4 or 3 starters, which then go into 3 bricks. So it's a 50-50 switch. Whereas this makes all of your these cards into a live play through a hand trap, which is really impactful, I think. The advantage of playing cards like this in normal builds is you can play like Barricade Ball Blocker to discard them, and then they don't become bricks, they actually become live engine pieces. And then these ones we've already mentioned have some vague interaction. So the genuine bricks are often these guys. Even then, opening these two doesn't stop your play. It's only opening Red Eyes Fusion that stops you from actually playing that particular engine. And when you do that, you just end up having it as like a discard for something else in the deck. Or maybe it's like your one starter card that enables you to get to something as a play. So really not too bad. I definitely recommend playing the Red Eyes engine right now. Maybe there'll be a more streamlined version in the future where we don't have to play so many bricks. And you might question why I didn't want to play the PK version. It's because with Harp back, you generally don't try to make the PK play. Because sure, making VFD is very nice, but the hand traps that you expect from an event where FTKs are legal would generally interact with VFD as well and stop that play from going through. So this lineup ended up being a lot more impactful, I think, over the course of the day. Right, extra deck, 2 Dingesu, got to show off the ultis, same for the Galatea. Not a third Galatea, although I did think about it a few times. I just think the matches that you play don't tend to go on long enough for that to be relevant. I think there was one time when I missed it, but it didn't matter because I ended up winning anyway. 1 Longyesu. The extra name's really nice in a format where you have Harp. Sometimes your weak hands become Galatea Longyesu, and that is still like a very strong play anyway. 1 Access Code, 1 Topologic Zerberus, and 1 Topologic Bomber. The Zerberus, this is one of the few times when Zerberus should not actually be in the build. This should be a Barricade Ball Blocker, but I couldn't find mine in time for the event. Barricade Ball Blocker should be played instead of this, and that will give you the discards for the genuine bricks that then become engine starters anyway. But Bomber is like super impactful in this build because you make Bomber and then you can trigger it 3 or sometimes 4 times, which is absurd. So I really like this, and the fact that Dragoon can't be destroyed, so often you just make Bomber, or sorry, you make IP, Anaconda, and Dragoon, and then during your opponent's turn you make the Bomber, and then you trigger your Bomber multiple times, and it doesn't wipe out your Dragoon, which is very cool. So then also Linkaribo for the standard plays, Striker Dragon, Anaconda, IP Masquerade all mentioned already, and then the Chaos Ruler, and Dragoon, and then the only other card which is like a semi-flex spot is the Borreload Savage Dragon. A lot of builders don't actually play this card, and I decided that I would play it simply because there are so many starters. There are so many starters in this deck now when you get to play, like Gearsu gets you your full play even after you've committed names onto the board. Foolish Burial gives you a full play even after you've committed a name onto the board. So suddenly you have 6 cards that can start playing 3 things. And then if you happened to not use your normal summon because you went via quick launch to get to your Savage, then you have even more ways of just summoning into your full combo. With a Savage up, so if you like you make your Savage early, equip the Striker Dragon. It's got 1 negate. If they bait that negate, you link it off for either your IP or your Anaconda for your end of board play, and you get some really cool interaction out of it. I think so. In like normal builds, it's debatable whether you should play Savage or cut it. This is because the Savage doesn't tend to have as much impact as in this particular version of the deck, where your normal summon of Gearsu is a full line of play. In normal modern format, without Harp, without Foolish Burial, Gearsu summoned after this, unless they bait the negate, so you want to take this off the board, the Gearsu doesn't get you like a full play, it gets you half a play, which is a little bit unfortunate. So it's like significantly weaker in normal format, which is why I debate cutting this one out for a lot of the normal builds. But definitely keep the Chaos Ruler, it's really nice when it resolves. The Graveyard Revive comes up obviously less in Orcust builds than in some other builds, but you do have access to light monsters via the Nibiru and the Gamma Driver package. In normal like current format builds, I'd actually recommend playing a light link monster, for example Union Carrier, which can get you into specific plays if you play like Droplet or something, which is very nice, and then you can revive this using the Union Carrier. That's for the main and the extra. I'll quickly take you guys through my side deck and briefly discuss siding strategies. So siding for this event, basically the existence of FTKs means you have to play a lot of lingering effects that are very strong. So Lancia was an obvious choice, as was Droll and Lockbird. You just need to stop all the draw cards from those like draw FTKs. And then also No Material. There are a few times when No Material was live, but didn't have the impact that I wanted it to. But this is like super good for decks that only just end up doing like a full FTK type combo, and you just gnome them at any point during that combo, and then suddenly their board is incredibly weak, which is not really surprising. Gnome is a fantastic card. It's just it rarely exists in a format where it has so much impact, because it's not often that your opponent is reliant on everything in their board going into like a final boss monster or a final play. So modern format, I wouldn't play No Material, but for FTK type formats, definitely give it a shot. And then who knows what people are going to play for this type of event, so you need some kind of back row removal. So I went with triple evenly, 1 Pank, 1 Duster, and 1 Red Reboot. If the Zeraboros comes out of the extra deck, then weirdly I would trade the Pancratops for it, rather than either of these two, for this particular format, because you would expect back row decks are full back row rather than like some monsters and some back row. But this is like a lot more impactful in like genuine normal current format play. Reboot is absurd, as would be anti-magic arrows against that type of deck, where you just board wipe like everything by triggering your Zeraboros. But yeah, that was the side deck for the siding strategy. As I mentioned previously, sometimes you want to take out the second Tracer if your hand trap is just going to be significantly more impactful. And you often see when you're going second, because you have more starter cards, you can also drop the Boot Sector Launch as another card to drop. The thing is, you then want to drop a third card. Not a lot of the deck has impact. Weirdly, Orochi and Crescendo are options for cases where you don't think you want to get into a grind game. You take out the Crescendo. And the other thing you can obviously do is drop one of your dangers, which generally is the Mothman, because your brick count is significantly lower in this particular build. So you can instead do these three as your first like slot that you want to switch up. For secondary slots, you've obviously got the hand trap lineup. So all the Gammas, the Driver, and the Birus are options. Then you can, if you want to side 9 cards, you can then switch out one of the previously mentioned any of these 4. And then Orochi comes up in weird scenarios where you want to take it out because it just doesn't bear the same impact. And the last thing you can consider taking out, although it's very specific for the opposing deck, is you can take out the Red Eyes package. I really like the Red Eyes package, so I'm kind of loath to take it out without significant reason. Like, it does really depend on what the opposing deck is, and whether they have easy outs to Dragoon already. But it is an option that you definitely need to consider when you go into one of these weird formats where you don't really know what you're going to be facing off against, and you need to find ways to fit in like Lancia. So you have like these 9 that you can bring in for a lot of the FTK monster type like decks that you're facing against, or if they end up with like big boards, maybe instead of Lancia you go for like an evenly or something, depending on how their combo works. It's really debatable depending on the deck, because there's so much variety in a format like this where you can just take a banned card and suddenly play it. But definitely a lot of fun. This type of event I'd really recommend giving a shot. There's a lot of formats beyond the like normal TCG format that you can play, and it gives you access to some very cool things. The main thing for me was the like nostalgia of being able to have Harp and resolve it. Sure, I couldn't do the like whole Azathoth play because you can't unban everything, but traditional Orcust can do that, which makes it kind of absurd. There's some really crazy stuff you can do in traditional format Orcust, so maybe I'll take a look at some of those combos down the line. And remember guys, do send me all of your Orcust combos and deck profiles. I'm planning on doing a huge video unveiling, looking at all of those combos, some of which we will be praising for how like powerful they are, how streamlined they are. Some of them will be roasting for how awkward they are, or how reliant they are on every single card in your hand. We'll just see, because there are some very impressive things that you can do with an Orcust lineup, depending on how you fix up your deck. That's going to be everything from me today. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.